Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, really do appreciate it. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Hope it's been a great holiday weekend for all of you. Shout out to the 19. Folks, so this is pretty cool. This is a cool story for me personally on a couple of levels. One, as a Caitlin Clark fan, of course, but two, also as an avid soccer fan who played, ref, coached it for about 12 years, has watched the women's game grind to where they've gotten to this point, something the WNBA has not had to do, but we'll get to that in a minute. So this is also cool. I want to point out a couple things. This is cool in terms of what it's doing for women's soccer, how smart Caitlin Clark is, and also the ridiculousness of the media and how some things are portrayed. We'll get into that. But first, just start out with the headline, right? Caitlin Clark investing in team ownership bid despite five-figure WNBA salary and turning down bigger offer. Okay. Okay. We'll get into that headline in a little bit. One, there's a whole thing, a lot of things to investing that are not necessarily relevant to salary. And of course, in this case, we all know that Caitlin Clark was a millionaire before she even got out of college because of NIL. And we know her deals like the Nike deal. We've got Nike and Wilson and Gatorade and on and on. So saying despite five-figure WNBA salary as if maybe it's not on the up and up or that she doesn't deserve it is absolutely absurd. And of course, the bigger offer they're talking about is unrivaled. So but let's talk about how this is for Cincinnati. For those who haven't heard about this yet, Caitlin Clark is part of an investing group for NWSL, that's the National Women's Soccer League, an expansion team based in Cincinnati. So this is smart on Caitlin Clark's part. It's also smart on the investment group because, rightly or wrongly, having that type of name attached is a big deal. I think it gives Cincinnati an edge over some of the other investing groups and cities that are making a bid. It's just like David Beckham being part of the investment group and ownership group for Inter Miami in MLS. You have stars that have gotten involved, such as Alex Morgan, speaking of soccer, but also, Magic Johnson, and you have some celebrities like Natalie Portman who have gotten involved in investment groups that brought expansion teams to sports like, again, the NWSL. So let's get into this a little bit. The NWSL Cincinnati bid team is thrilled that Caitlin Clark has joined our ownership group in pursuit of bringing women's professional soccer to our city. For those of you that don't know, don't necessarily follow soccer, FC Cincinnati is an MLS team that has not been around very long either. Her passion for the sport, commitment to elevating women's sports in and around the greater Cincinnati region, and influence as an athlete and a role model for women and girls around the world make her a vital part of our compelling bid to become the 16th team in the NWSL. Cincinnati is one of 3 finalists for an expansion bid, joining Cleveland and Denver. Her contribution to the bid has not been revealed publicly, which makes it also interesting. First of all, just personal note, very disappointed that Philadelphia got axed out of this already. Philadelphia is one of the greatest sports cities in America. Whether you buy into the Philly fan narrative or not, it's a very passionate sports city that supports its teams. I don't know if it's something the WNBA could ever do because from what I've seen on X this season, WNBA players and WNBA old guard fans are not ready for the type of fans that Philadelphia would bring to the league. But anyway, so Sportico data from 2024 puts the average value of an NWSL franchise at $104 million. Angel City FC in Los Angeles, by the way, a relatively new team, league's most valuable franchise at $250 million, while the Chicago Red Stars are the lowest value team at $53 million. By the way, those numbers are absolutely crazy. Now, of course, relative to, say, NBA, NFL, MLB, they're obviously dirt cheap, which is why I think you're also seeing a lot of business people and names that you know from other sports and athletes that have benefited from the kind of contracts they get nowadays, investing in NWSL teams because, or women's sports in general, which is great, is because you're seeing, and we saw this with the WNBA as well, the valuations are quickly skyrocketing. Personally, I think they're way overvalued. But if you're getting in now, you're going to get something out of that. Now, it talks about if Clark's investment is anywhere close to 1% of a typical franchise's total value, it would be an investment that easily eclipses her entire annual WNBA salary. Now, like, again, this is, I don't understand what it is they're trying to make with this, unless this is just a passive aggressive way to say WNBA players should make more. But in fact, Chicago Red Stars, which have been around the entirety of the league, 1% of that is what, 53,000? And by the way, so what? I mean, when people buy homes, they're spending a lot more than their annual salary. We also know that Clark makes a lot more. Again, as I said, from a bunch of other stuff. I'll give you just a quick story because of one of the big names, at least locally. Now, this is kind of a little before me, but I remembered I read a book. There was a guy named Pat Croce in Philadelphia who was a big Philadelphia sports guy. I think he was initially but very well known physical therapist, physical rehabilitation guy who worked for multiple professional Philly sports teams. And he had always wanted to be an owner. And he worked and worked and worked and got a lot of investors and bought the Sixers. Now, was he the majority owner? Was it all his money? Was it money that he was a lot more than his individual salary? Of course. Of course. I like this absurdity of connecting it to her WNBA salary for a year is just, I find it really, really odd. Really, really odd. And of course, it goes on to talk about how she could have supplemented her basketball income with the new unrivaled 3-on-3 league, which will be played in the WNBA offseason. That were reportedly offering $1 million, and she turned it down. WTF, people. I mean, are we serious with this? Again, supplement her basketball income. Why, she's a multi-millionaire already at age 22. Caitlin Clark makes more from a 30-minute Zoom speech than she makes from her annual WNBA salary. Again, she made millions while she was in college. And then it goes on to talk about not much is known about her lifestyle because she keeps a low profile on her spending habits. Why do we even need to know about these players' lifestyles? I don't know what that has to do with this. And then it says, however, everyone will know if she's on the hook for her investment in the Cincinnati FC bid if the city ends up winning the expansion franchise. Um, again, I don't know what they're trying to get at. Good for her. I don't know if she's just investing her own money, if she's got investors pulled around her. From everything I've seen from Caitlin Clark, from Caitlin Clark's upbringing, from the decision making that she made, she's very, very smart, very, very smart 22-year-old. I think she's seems to be very smart with her money, and she's doing a smart thing and diversifying above and beyond what she can get paid in both her salary and endorsements, which is a really, really smart thing to do. Um, and one smart thing the article does say is that her presence as an investor could sway the decision. I absolutely agree with that. I think that's why Cincinnati made because if I remember correctly, she was announced as part of the investor bid before a couple of cities were told no in the process, such as Philly. I think that helped push Cincinnati into this next round. Um, and here's a wild take. So if she gets or I shouldn't say C, if Cincinnati gets a team, it says here that her financial future could depend heavily on the willingness of the people of Cincinnati to embrace a pro women's soccer franchise. Again, I seriously doubt that. I seriously doubt if Caitlin Clark's financial future is completely going to be tied up in an NWSL franchise. As I said, she seems to have a good head on her shoulders, makes smart decisions. I'm sure she seems to be the type, especially with her family around her, that she most likely has good people around her in making these decisions. She's not going to put herself in a situation where this one investment in a potential NWSL expansion team is going to leave her homeless if it doesn't work out. I mean, I feel like this article was done by a combination of ESPN, WNBA people, and Chat GPT. I mean, sports media it's cooked, folks. They're absolutely cooked. And then what's really crazy is it has to bring in, oh man, this is wild. Remember, I've always said it like as the WNBA season went along, regardless of what they were talking about when it came to like new viewers and all this, it became Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. And here they're doing it again. I think it's also a passive aggressive shot at the salaries where it had to bring in. Here we go, folks. Quoting this Clark's biggest rival in the WNBA has already admitted to struggling with personal finances since becoming a professional. And of course, we are talking about Angel Reese, someone Caitlin Clark has never seen as a rival at all, let alone her biggest rival. And it goes on to talk about how Chicago star Angel Reese admitted in October social media post that she can't afford to pay her rent on her WNBA salary. Uh, yeah, like her rookie salary, I think was 73,000 plus, and she's paying 8,000 a month rent. Well, that seems dumb. That seems really, really, really dumb. Even though over the last few years the price of housing has absolutely skyrocketed, people who have been buying houses are doing so without paying 8,000 a month. Angel Reese did not have to pay $8,000 a month in rent in order to live decently. And again, as we all know, like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese makes far more from other sources than she does just from her Sky contract. I I understand they're trying to make this a look, and here I'll quote Angel Reese. I just hope y'all know the WNBA it should be doesn't pay my bills at all. Well, to say at all is absurd because they're paying you $73,000 and you work a third of the year. I don't even think that pays one of my bills. Literally, I'm trying to think of my rent for where I stay at. Let me do the math real quick. This is gibberish. But again, to say 73,000 a year doesn't pay one of your bills, you're making more than the average American. And while most Americans are struggling again for the past few years with the price of everything, to sit there and say someone who's making and again, I'm guessing Angel Reese probably makes seven figures a year just based on what I've seen from everything else. And this is a nonsense take to try and shame the WNBA, which loses millions of dollars a year, into upping the salaries. And it's a really bad look. You want Americans to support you in what you do, but you're going to make these kind of complaints. It's absolutely absurd. But like anything else, to the back to the report of tying it to Caitlin Clark's salaries. This is like anything else for those of you that don't know, like say independent filmmaking, right? You want to get investors. You have a script. You're a filmmaker. You want to make it. It's going to be low budget, but you still need investors. Okay, so the best way to make that happen and to get the investors is to get a name attached first. Get an actor that has enough of a name that then you can go to the investors and say, hey, here's the script. Here's what I want to make it for. We have so and so attached, right? That's kind of what you're seeing here with Caitlin Clark and FC Cincinnati, the investor group, to bring an expansion franchise to the NWSL. Very smart decision. I would love for the NWSL to do well. I think this is great. For those who don't know, U.S. women's national team also, just a side note, played friendly in England today. They played in historic Wembley Stadium and drew over 78,000. I want to say 78,346, if I'm not mistaken, is what they said on the telecast. It was absolutely insane. Congrats to them. For those also who don't know, may not be soccer, but I'm going to tie this to the WNBA. This is like, I want to say the fourth or fifth professional soccer league in America since maybe late 80s, since the 90s. None of them have made it to year five. until the NWSL, which is now, of course, well past that. And that's because they've had to do it on their own, and they've grinded, and they've marketed, and they've done all these things to try and grow the sport. So, women's sports are growing. Some of them are growing rapidly. For years now, the women tennis players have made the same prize money at the Grand Slams as the men. Actually, I think a lot more prize money because they only play best of three while the men play best of five, but they get the same amount. Just saying. For those of you who ever played tennis, it's a big difference having to win 2 out of 3 versus winning 3 out of 5. But anyway, again, they did it. They've done it. They've grinded. The WNBA has had opportunities that no other women's sports have had, and they continually fail. And I think it's time to cut the NBA cord because of that. Let the WNBA work just like all these other women's sports are working and grinding. But anyway, this got a lot longer than I thought it was going to be for this kind of topic, but I love how Clark at 22 is already working on her business empire, and she's doing it. This is above and beyond her personal brand, right? Where you're getting companies that are endorsing Caitlin Clark. You're getting Caitlin Clark to make speeches, and she's making money that way. This is above and beyond that. This is about a business empire above and beyond Caitlin Clark, the brand, which I think is absolutely fantastic for her doing that at 22. Congrats. I hope it goes well. I mean, at this point, Philly's out, so hey, you know what? Let's give the team to Cincinnati and see what happens. But I'm going to leave it there. Thanks again so much for checking out this video. I really do appreciate it. If you are enjoying the content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. I will talk to you later.